G'day and welcome back to Drafted, talking all things SuperCoach Draft this Sunday night, March 30th, 2025. It's your boy Dossie here, talking waiver wire pickups for round 4. I'm here with Lekdog, and Lekdog, outside of Carlton-related emotions, mate, how are you?
I'm well, mate. Another weekend of draft gone, another weekend of pretending the football team I support didn't play. No, it's good. It's good. Won both my main leagues, and that's the important thing, isn't it? That
is good. I believe I beat Patch, our good friend from the show, this week in our draft league. So always a good thing to get a W over your mates. But for those wondering at home, we didn't do a show last week. This podcast won't be a weekly feature on your feed, but we'll jump on when we can. Even we'll try and get Patch on at some point in the season as well. But we are talking all things draft because we do love the game, and you can still make a league if you're a bit late to the party on SuperCoach Draft as well, and grab your mates to, especially if your classic team's gone to absolute no good like mine is turning out to be. You can always have a bit of fun in draft. But one thing, Lekdog, you will be doing every single week is your weekly article called Cop 'em and Drop 'em, like the name, all come up with by you there, Lek. But you'll be able to find that exclusively on Code Sports for all your draft needs. And Lekdog, you've been nailing your picks of late.
Yes, it's going well early, not to toot my own horn, and we do track in the article the results from the previous week. But as a sneak peek, if you want your advice on who to grab, I pretty much nailed it this week. Jack Henry, 88. Jake Bowie, 116. CJ, only 58. Slight miss there, but I did say he was a benchy. Nathan O'Driscoll, 104. Georgiades, who was dominant and scored all his points in about 5 minutes, 78. And Taylor Walker at 91. Were the cops from last week. If you grabbed any of them, you'd probably be pretty happy. And then the drops of the guys who did play: Blake Acres, 25, Andrew McGrath, 34, Aaron Norton, 53, and then Tim Taranto, who I suggested was a trade, not a drop, 94 points. So pretty good scoring record. And every article we track the previous week's performance, so you can hold me accountable if you subscribe.
I think that's been my favourite part so far. And you were, to be fair, pre-show, you were tooting your own horn to me. You were saying how well you did last show. That's why we wanted to bring it up. But it is good to see you're holding yourself accountable there, Lex. So check that out on Code Sports. We do have a SuperCoach Draft section there on the site now. So I'll put that link in the description. But let's get to our top 5 waivers heading into round 4, post round 3. And like I said, we are recording Sunday night, so if things do change around, that's not our fault. It's Sunday night. So, Lekdog, I'll let you start with the first one, and the way we do this, we'll just go one by one here. So, who's your number 1 waiver wire pickup?
Well, I'm going to cheat because, again, it's Jake Bowie. So, he was in the article last week. He's still in under, let me have a look.
He's 24%
of teams.
Yeah.
And he's just got a plum roll. It was a bit higher up the ground this week, but essentially half back, maybe pushing a little bit up onto a wing, but pretty much half back. And he's just been dominant. 116 last week, 97 the week before, and I think he had about a 92. I'll double check now. About a 92 in that first week as well. So he's been on fire, 96. He's got a great roll. Melbourne aren't defending well through the middle of the ground. They're not putting a heap of pressure on, so he is getting plenty of opportunities. And just a really under-owned player. And for a guy who, even if you look at just his pure average, 96.5 before this weekend, if someone's averaging that, I would have expected them to be picked up in more teams than he has been. So grab him if he's there.
Yeah, unreal. I've got him in my top 5. He's down at 5th for me, but it's only because he's actually been my boy for so long, and I've probably gone way too early on him, and he's let me down in the past. So I'm not willing to go there just in case things fall off the rails again, like they have for me in the past. But I love the role, love the player. So an awesome pickup, and still way under-owned at the moment. Now, I just will say for percentage-wise, I think we're going under 60% owned as our threshold here, Lek. I've kind of stuck under. I've actually got under 45-ish% at the moment. So hopefully these guys, they might not be valuable in your league, but I've got a couple of lower percentages at the end as well to talk through. So
yeah, I don't think I've got anyone sort of above 40, so we'll get there.
So this guy may be missed due to that, but 40.4% is my number one player, and it's Jace Burgoyne.
I'll just remove him off my list.
Unbelievable that he's this lowly owned at the moment, but a bit of a role change, clearly playing a bit more defence now. He took 3 kick-ins on the weekend, but also 100% time on ground. This guy's just so clean with the pill. Love the way he plays, and look, if they're going to start using him, if Port's going to start using him as their distributor now that Dan Houston's gone, alongside Kane Farrell, because it seemingly looks like they need some help back in defence. Scored 121 on the weekend, started the season slow with a 50 and then moved into that role, 127, 121 since. So he should, hopefully, we'll see how DPPs are tracking, but you'd presume that he's going to get dual position status. And that happens after round 5 this year. So it's a round earlier. So you don't even have to stash him in your midfield for too long. It's for 2 extra rounds. And then he should hopefully be a defender. So he's my number one waiver wire pickup this week. If he's there, grab him.
He's just a jet, isn't he? He's just so good.
He's a gun. Who have you got second, Lek?
This is a my boy. This is a guy who's in 37.5% of teams. This is a John Noble. He was in all of my preseason rankings. I own him in every single keeper league I play in.
You were talking him up big time preseason. I remember that.
Yeah, and he's come out. So obviously Gold Coast have only played the 2 games, 78, and then the 120 on the weekend, playing half back, but predominantly playing on sort of the left side of the ground if you're looking from defence. And he pushed really high up the ground and was impacting, forward of the ball as well. But we know that he can sort of slot back. And opposite Dan Rioli, all of a sudden they've got a couple of weapons. And I guess the hype for me on him preseason was you don't acquire a guy like that for the price they paid unless you've got a role for him. And very clearly to me that plum half-back role's there, and he's a kicker first. So that's what I love about him.
Yeah, beautiful. He's I think he was a special mention on my list, or maybe top 5. Yeah, no, he was a special mention for me, but I know he is your boy, so fair enough that he's cracked in there. I still just don't know what to think of the Suns, but I do have a Sun as my number 2 and drafted in a lot of probably our leagues and a bunch of, I guess, the experienced super coaches, I would say, have this guy in their team, but Bailey Humphrey, 42.5% of leagues he is owned in, but 111 on the weekend and off to a flying start, playing much more midfield this year, getting a lot of midfield exposure. He's available as a forward. So while I don't think these massive scores necessarily are sustainable for the season, the Suns are off to an absolute flyer. So we've had some pretty big scores across the board in their midfield at the moment. But look, he's going to be playing at least some midfield exposure and some pretty decent centre bounce numbers as well from Bailey Humphrey. And when you've got a forward that is doing that, look, you just get them up. You get them in your team straight away early in the season. So look, I know he's probably not available in your league, but 42.5% he might be. So if he is, go grab him. Your third, Lekdog.
My third is, I'm just switching things around here on the fly, and this is I'm going to switch to this man. It's going to be Dan Curtin, and played the first round for Adelaide sort of in defence, didn't score much, scored 26 points, but then the last 2 weeks has played forward, and in an Adelaide team that's attacking a lot and defending not a lot, and scoring a lot, his little niche role in the forward line has generated some points. So 82 last week, 90 this week. He's available in a hell of a lot of teams. I'm just scrolling down to actually try and find him. I actually can't find him. I think he's in sub 10% of teams. Let's pull him up. Curtin, he's in 4.4% of teams of leagues, and he's available as a forward. And I think anyone who's available as a forward at this point in the season that has a little bit of upside or is in a little bit of form is someone I'm going to jump on, because I'd rather field him than like your Sam Powell Peppers and that sort of player.
Yeah, huge for the keeper leagues perspective as well. That seemed like a breakout game in particular this week against North, but yeah, one to keep an eye out. I don't know if I have as much faith as you do, perhaps, as the role or the scoring continuing. But yeah, Adelaide are another team that's just killing it to start the season. My number 3, and a bit of bias from my beloved West Coast Eagles, and they did just play moments ago, so I don't even know if this final score is going to be scaled at all, but Ryan Marich played an amazing game this game against Fremantle in the Western Derby, 123 points, and he has got the defensive distributor role at West Coast at the moment. It was flagged in pre-season, but then he didn't play in the first week, and it was sort of like, oh, what's going on there? Doesn't have, he's clearly out of favour, but he's come in the next 2 and put up some solid scores. He was sub the first week, scored well in very low time on ground. It was like a 33 in a quarter, basically. Since then, had 2 really solid games and come out with a massive game this week. And the other thing that I like about it as well, like other than just the fact he's taking kick-ins, he's the guy back there. He makes some mistakes, but he's 20 years old. So, you'd hope that they persist with him. The thing that happened in that game as well, though, was Jeremy McGovern was injured. I think it was a groin that he did there. So job security should be there long term. Harry Edwards was subbed out. So, he's up in the favour, you'd imagine, if he's taking kick-ins and got that role. But, I think Ryan Marich, only 3.4% of teams at the moment available as a forward, and he's got that prime distributing role. So, yeah, one that I'm really high on and probably hoping to pick up in many leagues this week.
Bloody beautiful. Well, he was definitely on my list. So if we're going to stick in that under selected forward line, I've got a bit of a curly one. His name's Ben Long. He's in 2.4% of teams. He scored 87 points against Melbourne and 96 points against West Coast. The points were pretty high against Melbourne, and he only kicked 1 goal, whereas he kicked 4 goals against West Coast. So he's generating points from basically possessions, and he kicks a hell of a lot more than he handballs. He really has no reason to handball. So he's currently in form. Gold Coast are currently in form. He's a forward. I'm willing to take a punt or a risk on a guy like this in the forward line, even if he's on my bench. He's a guy I'm looking to grab. I don't think it's going to last, but I think while that Gold Coast are up and about, he's someone I'm willing to ride.
I really like that we have different players, and I think it's because we sort of set little different thresholds, but there's so far, again, not much crossover here, which is awesome to get some more names on the podcast. I've gone, again, a bit higher in ownership again, but under 40%, 32.2% at the moment. Hugo Garcia, a player that's talked about a fair bit in classic circles as well this preseason, had a chance to really score well this week with no Jack Steele as a late out, but still, the signs were really good here. Able to score, has a midfield role, and he was the sub last week. You'd hope that after that performance, he avoids it for a little bit. And I'd be willing to spend a waiver just to see if he holds that role for a while, because his potential's amazing. Obviously super high on him in keeper leagues, but his potential's amazing for this year. Should he just hold on to that role? And the Saints look pretty good with him in there. So look, I'd be willing to spend it just to see if he can hold on to that role, even with Jack Steele back in the side, if he can get his scoring up a little bit around this mark. But yeah, an amazing game from Hugo Garcia.
Yeah, a bit of rage trading for classic. Saw people drop him last week, and they're probably not super happy with that decision at this stage. I've got another more highly owned player, 33.4% to round out my top 5. Mid-only Tom Atkins, midfielder from Geelong, 85, a 96, and a 105 to start the season. 14 tackles, 11 tackles, and 12 tackles. 14 the most recent, 12 the first. He's being a defensive stopper in the midfield, and he doesn't even need to touch the ball to get points because he's just generating tackles. So I think for now, midfield is actually really shallow for mid-only players, and he's one that I have my eye on if he's available.
Yeah, that Cats midfield, it's not super deep outside those top players. So yeah, he's getting a pretty nice role in there as well. My 5th to round it out was in fact Jake Bowie. So you mentioned him up the top, 24% owned. Big fan of him as well. But a couple of special mentions, I suppose. I do have a guy that's massive at the moment in salary cap leagues, and Sam Davidson available as a forward looked outstanding on the weekend. Mature age rookie coming into the system, 129 points for the Western Bulldogs. Bit salty I didn't play him on field, and you'll probably hear about that on the Phantom's Lair talking about that. But yeah, he's one that I'm, I'd be probably willing to spend, because he's lower owned in draft league, 17.9%. So he's going to be more available than some of these guys we're talking off the top. And there's a word that I used to use and still do use at times, observable thirst in this setting. And boy, he wants the pill. He wants that Sharon bad. So Sam Davidson, I think he's a good option in draft as well.
I like it. And if we're going to jump into honourable mentions, guy in a similar vein is sort of Murphy Reed. That's just sort of that rookie-priced SuperCoach Classic type player that's available in plenty of leagues. But the name I want to throw at you, this is a curveball, and I only know about him because I have him in a dynasty league where we have to play key position players each week. Anthony Caminiti from St Kilda has been switched from a undersized full forward to essentially a fullback or an attempt to try and fill a Josh Battle type hole in that St Kilda side. And then we've only got a small sample size. 56 in round one was him playing as a forward, and then he's put up a 78 and a 95 in defence. Now, one was a win against Geelong, and the other was against a win against Richmond, who, he was kind of running around with Tom Lynch and then basically doing whatever he wanted. I don't think it's a long-term play. I don't think it might even pay off next week, but he's one I'm watching. It's a role change. He's scored 2 decent scores, and he's a forward. And at some stage soon, he'll be forward defence eligible. So he's just one that I'm looking at. He's in almost literally no one's team in SuperCoach Draft.
Yeah, I'd be happy picking him up free agency. You're definitely not spending a waiver, but
no.
You could pick him up later in the week and stream if you're really struggling in that forward line and hope it pops for a few weeks. I'm just looking at their injury report as well. Someone like a Dougal Howard to fill that role, still 5-ish weeks away on their last injury report. So, it's a decent shout. Can't say I've been thinking about him too much in my plans.
I think about him a lot. That's
a player that you mentioned off the top as well in special mentions, but he was in your article last week. I think you said Tex Walker still 10% owned. Improved Crom's side there as well. I think one of his early scores was he got subbed off, I think, in the first game in a bit lower time on ground from memory. So his last 2 games outside of that one, he's scored really well. So Tex could be good in that forward line for the Crows if we're going to see more of it up there. The Wizard has been, he's been unreal. 134 on the weekend. You got to give him props. Started off with a stinker in the season, but they've got the bye this week, which is why I didn't mention him as a pickup this particular week. I think it's going to be a topsy-turvy ride with any small forward as well, so I probably wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but you're probably going to get some of these ceiling scores, which is unbelievable from a small forward. Player that I will my last special mentions, Cam Mackenzie, 29%. Again, I didn't mention him just because the Hawks do have the bye this week, but I think his role in that midfield looks pretty solidified now. And if Kane Corns' words have anything to say about it, I think he said one of his tweets was that he's a future Brownlow medalist. So that's if you have any sway with Big Kano, he's talking a lot about fantasy this year, mainly in a negative light. But if you're that way swayed, I think Cam Mackenzie could be a nice little player this year as well for your midfield. So
yeah, I think he's got a pretty solid locked-in role. He's definitely got a locked-in spot in the team. James Warple needs to come back, but Connor McDonald came out of that forward line. He has moments at the midfield, so there's definitely minutes available currently.
All right, Lekdog. Well, that's all we have for the waivers this week. Again, you can catch Cop 'em and Drop 'em from Lekdog. That is his waiver wire article, weekly exclusive on Code Sports. So check that out every week. Like I said, we'll jump on for a pod from time to time when we can, but you can grab that every single week of the season with the great Lekdog here. So great to jump on again, Lekdog. Good luck for the Blues this week, mate. Hopefully your fortunes turn around a bit.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Good luck with you West Coast, aren't you?
I am. So
are we both currently bottom 2 on the ladder?
Yep. Commiserations, mate. And all the best in draft, though. All the best in draft. All right, guys. Enjoy. Leave us a rating and review if you're enjoying these draft episodes. Subscribe on YouTube, comment, whatever you want. Hit us up on Twitter as well. I'm at HKDOS. Lekdog, you're at Lekdog on Twitter as well. I think a bit more active this year as well, old Lekdog on the Twitter sphere. So
I have come out of retirement a little bit.
Jump on board and we'll talk to you soon. See you later.